Welcome to the Red Raven UAS podcast. Today we are doing a deep dive into a topic that, I think it genuinely haunts people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is the final boss of the exam.
It really is. And there's this one specific module that just acts as a gatekeeper. It stops enthusiastic people right in their tracks. We are talking about Airspace.
Yeah, Airspace, the alphabet soup.
Right. And before we get into the weeds, because we are definitely going to get into the weeds today, let's ground this for anyone new to the show. At Red Raven, we specialize in training, consulting, and compliance, so helping agencies and individuals get certified is a huge part of what we do every single day.
And that Part 107 exam is not just a rubber stamp. It's a genuine aeronautical test.
It is.
And the section on airspace is where the rubber really meets the road.
It's where people panic. I mean, I was looking at the forums online, and you see people saying, I can fly my drone just fine. I take great photos. But then I open the study guide. I see these charts that look like abstract art, and I just freeze.
I get it. It is the number one friction point. It looks like a foreign language because, well, frankly, it is a foreign language. It's the language of aviation.
But the goal of our deep dive today is to prove to you that it is learnable.
Right.
Right? It's not magic. It's not just random letters. It's a system.
It is a highly structured system.
So let's start at the absolute bottom. When we say airspace, what are we actually talking about? Because say I'm a real estate photographer or maybe a construction superintendent. I walk out to my job site. I look up and I see
just air.
Right. Just empty, open sky. It looks completely free.
And that is a very dangerous illusion. To the naked eye, sure, it's just empty space. But to the FAA and to any professional pilot, that sky is a rigid 3D map of invisible highways, zones, layers, and corridors. Think of it exactly like the road system you drove on to get to work today.
Okay, I like that analogy.
You can't see the speed limit floating in the air, right? You can't see double yellow lines physically hovering above the asphalt. But you know they are there.
You know the rules.
Right. You know that if you cross the center line or blow through a red light, there are consequences. Airspace is the exact same concept. It's just vertical.
And the consequences are a lot higher than a fender bender at an intersection.
Much, much higher.
Yeah.
You have to remember, you are not the only one in that volume of air. You might be flying a 2-pound piece of plastic to inspect a roof.
Right.
But you are sharing that exact same air with a medical helicopter, a Cessna, a police aircraft, or even a commercial airliner. The airspace rules are simply the traffic laws that keep those very different vehicles from colliding.
That really puts it into perspective. It's not just government bureaucracy. It is literal collision avoidance.
Precisely. It's about sharing the sky safely.
Okay, so let's break down the structure of this invisible map. When you look at the Red Raven study materials, everything seems to hinge on one massive distinction. Before you worry about the random letters or the altitudes, you have to understand the difference between controlled and uncontrolled.
That is the binary choice. Every single inch of sky in the United States is either controlled or uncontrolled. You have to know which one you are in before you even turn on the controller.
And looking at the plain English definitions in the curriculum, it seems like the difference really comes down to one word.
Permission.
Permission. Okay, let's unpack that.
So in controlled airspace, air traffic control ATC, they are the boss. They own that slice of sky. It does not matter if you are a Boeing 747 or a DJI Mini. If you want to enter that space, you absolutely 100% need mandatory prior authorization.
You can't just launch.
Never. You have to ask, and they have to say yes.
Now, asking sounds really intimidating. I think people picture needing a handheld radio and having to speak pilot lingo to a guy in a tower, Ghost Raider requesting flyby, that sort of thing.
Yeah, thankfully, no. It used to be a paperwork nightmare that took months to get approved. But now we have a system called LAANC.
LAANC.
Right. It stands for Low Altitude Authorization and Notification Capability. But honestly, you don't need to memorize the acronym. You just need to know it is the digital easy button.
It's just an app, right?
It's an app on your phone. You drop a pin where you want to fly. And if you are in controlled airspace but below the safety ceiling, the system gives you automatic approval in a matter of seconds.
Wow. But the key takeaway here is you still have to use it. You still have to ask.
Correct. Controlled means permission required. It is not necessarily a no-fly zone. It is an ask-first zone.
Okay, that makes sense. So that is controlled. Now let's talk about uncontrolled airspace.
Mm-hmm.
In the FAA manuals, this is referred to as Class G. And I've heard people in the drone community call this the Wild West.
Wild West is a catchy nickname, but it's a little misleading because it implies there are no rules, and that is definitely not true.
So what does uncontrolled actually mean for a drone pilot?
It just means there is no sheriff directly managing traffic. There is no air traffic control managing that specific pocket of air. In Class G, you are the air traffic controller.
Oh, I see.
You do not need to ask anyone for permission. You don't need to file a LAANC request. You are the sole decision maker.
So I just pull the drone out of the truck and fly?
Effectively, yes. And this is but you still have to follow the rules of the road.
But Part 107 rules.
Exactly. You still have to stay below 400 feet. You still have to keep the drone within your visual line of sight. You still can't fly over moving vehicles or crowds of people. The rules of flight still apply, but the administrative burden of asking permission is gone.
That is a really important distinction. Uncontrolled means no permission needed, not do whatever you want.
Spot on.
Let's try to ground this in some real-world geography for the listeners. If I am standing in, say, downtown Chicago or downtown Miami, surrounded by skyscrapers, what kind of airspace am I likely in?
In a major downtown metro area, you are almost certainly in controlled airspace. That is usually Class B, which surrounds the biggest airports. There is just way too much going on. You've got helicopters, news crews, jets on approach. ATC needs to know about every single object in that sky.
Okay, what if I'm out inspecting a solar farm in the middle of rural Kansas?
Then you are very likely in Class G, uncontrolled. There are no towers nearby, the manned air traffic is low, you are on your own to make safe decisions.
And what about something in the middle, like a medium-sized town with a regional airport?
That is usually where you find Class C or Class D. It is still controlled because there is a tower and there are commercial flights, but it's not as massive or busy as the airspace around a huge international hub.
This brings us perfectly to the part that everyone dreads. The alphabet soup. We've mentioned B, C, D, and G so far, but when you look at the list as a beginner, it just feels completely random. Why are there so many letters?
It feels random until you group them. The Red Raven course uses a really simple hierarchy that I love. First off, let's just throw out Class A.
Goodbye, Class A.
Seriously, forget it. Class A is 18,000 feet and up. That is for airliners and high-altitude jets. Drones are legally capped at 400 feet from the ground. We will never, ever be in Class A.
Done. One letter down.
Now look at B, C, and D. You should group these together in your mind. These are the airport classes. If you are in Class B, C, or D, it means you are near an airport that has an operating control tower.
So B, C, and D equals tower.
Yes. And the letters just tell you how busy that airport is. There are some great memory tricks for this. Class B is for big.
B for big.
Think Boeing 747. Think Atlanta Hartsfield, LAX, JFK. These are the massive international hubs. The airspace is actually shaped like an upside-down wedding cake, getting wider as it goes up, just to protect all those big jets on their descent.
Okay, B is big. Got it.
Then Class C is for crowded.
Crowded, like mid-sized cities.
Exactly. These are your regional commercial airports. Think Buffalo, Nashville, Portland. You have jets, you have commercial flights, but it is not the mega scale of a Class B airport.
And then Class D?
Class D is for dialogue.
Dialogue. I like that.
These are smaller airports. Maybe they handle general aviation, flight schools, small private charters. They have a tower, so you need to be in dialogue with them, which for us just means getting that approval, but it's the smallest of the controlled bunch.
That breakdown makes it so much more approachable. B is big, C is crowded, D is dialogue, and all three of those require permission.
Correct.
Then we have Class G, which we already said is the Wild West. Is there a mnemonic for G?
G is for ground. It's the airspace that typically starts at the surface in rural areas. It's the low-altitude, uncontrolled stuff where we do most of our flying.
But then, and I know the listeners are waiting for this, we have the villain of the story, Class E.
Oh, Class E.
I feel like Class E is the one that trips everyone up on the Part 107 exam. The Red Raven notes literally call it a shapeshifter. Why is this one so complicated?
It's complicated because it defies the simple logic we just set up. Class E is technically controlled airspace high-performance aircraft, fly there under ATC guidance, but for us drone pilots, the question is always, where does it start?
Right, because we're talking about a 3D map. It has layers.
Exactly. In most places in the U.S., you are standing on the ground in Class G. Uncontrolled. You are free to fly. But at 700 feet above your head, or maybe 1,200 feet above your head, the airspace turns into Class E.
So there is a ceiling to the free airspace.
Yes. But since we are legally limited to flying at 400 feet, if the controlled Class E starts at 700 feet, we don't care.
Because we can't go up there anyway.
Right. We are safely underneath the shelf. Think of it like a house. We are playing in the basement, and the expensive planes are up on the second floor.
So most of the time we can just ignore Class E.
Usually. unless Class E starts at the surface.
So sometimes the floor drops out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes, usually around smaller airports that don't have a control tower but do have bad weather instrument approaches, Class E goes all the way down to the dirt. If Class E starts at the surface, it is controlled airspace at ground level. And what does controlled mean?
Permission required.
You got it.
So the entire game with Class E is figuring out, where is the floor? Does it start at the ground or does it start way up in the sky?
That is the million-dollar question, and you cannot tell by walking outside and looking at the sky. It all looks the same.
Which brings us to the visual nightmare, the sectional charts.
The maps.
We mentioned earlier that these maps look like a bowl of spaghetti exploded on a topographical map.
Yeah.
They're incredibly dense, super colorful, and covered in tiny symbols. I think this is where that final boss feeling really comes from.
It is entirely overwhelming at first glance. But again, we are looking for patterns. The Red Raven course emphasizes that you really only need to care about two colors on that map, blue and magenta.
Blue and magenta. Break that down for me. What does blue mean?
Blue is the strict color. Blue almost always indicates a control tower is present. If you see solid blue lines, that's Class B big. Dashed blue lines are Class D dialogue. But if your finger is on a blue circle on that map, your brain should just scream, "Tower! Permission required!"
Okay, blue means stop and ask. And magenta.
Magenta is the softer color. It usually marks areas where there is no tower, or it's marking those weird Class E transition layers we just talked about. Magenta is where things get nuanced, but generally it is less strict than blue.
Now, what about the symbols? Because there are thousands of them. Little flags, parachutes, glider icons, weird geometric shapes. Do I seriously need to memorize what a glider activity symbol looks like for this test?
This is the best news I can give your listeners today. The answer is no. You absolutely do not need to memorize the symbols.
But they are on the test. I've seen the practice questions.
They are on the test. But when you sit down at the testing center to take the Part 107, they hand you a physical book called the Airman Knowledge Testing Supplement. And in the very front of that book is a legend.
A legend, like on a standard roadmap.
Exactly. If you see a weird flag on the chart during the test and you don't know what it is, you literally flip to the front of the book, find the picture of the flag, and it tells you visual checkpoint.
Okay, that feels a little bit like cheating.
It's not cheating, it's resource management. The FAA isn't testing your ability to memorize obscure graphics. They are testing your ability to find information. A safe pilot doesn't guess. A safe pilot looks it up. Using the legend during the test is exactly what they want you to do.
That is a massive relief.
Yeah.
It's basically an open book test for the symbols.
For the symbols, yes. You still need to comprehend the airspace classes. You can't look those up easily, but the geography, the specific icons, look it up.
I want to pivot to the why for a second. We've talked about the rules, the letters, and the colors. But
Yeah.
I want to play devil's advocate. Why is the FAA so obsessed with this? Why is this the most heavily tested section of the exam? If I'm just taking photos of a house in the suburbs at 100 feet, why do I need to know about Class E shelf?
It feels like overkill until you understand the risk. The FAA's primary mandate is safety. They don't care if you get a great real estate shot. They care that you don't cause a mid-air collision.
Can you give us a specific scenario, like what's a real-world example from the training?
Absolutely. Let's talk about military training routes. On the sectional chart, these look like thin gray lines. They're very easy to miss.
Yeah.
And they'll be labeled something like VR 1007.
Okay, so say I'm out in the desert, or maybe out in the mountains. I'm in Class G, uncontrolled, I don't need permission. I'm flying at 300 feet, feeling perfectly legal.
You are legally allowed to be there, but you didn't notice that thin gray line on the chart? That line means the military uses that specific corridor for low-level combat training.
How low is low level?
We're talking 500 feet or below, and we are talking about fighter jets, F-16s, F-35s, moving at 400 knots or more.
Wait, 500 feet, that low?
Yes. If you are hovering there thinking, I'm in uncontrolled airspace, I'm safe, you are dead wrong. A jet moving at 400 knots covers a mile in just a few seconds. By the time you hear the engine, it is already on top of you.
And at that speed?
At that speed, the wake turbulence alone, the chaotic air trailing behind the jet would disintegrate a drone, it would turn it into confetti. Or, worst case scenario, your drone gets sucked into the intake of a $100 million aircraft. Now you've caused a catastrophic engine failure and put a pilot's life at risk.
That puts a very, very different spin on uncontrolled airspace. It doesn't mean empty, it just means unmanaged.
Exactly. Let me give you another one. Weather minima. The test asks a lot about visibility, usually requiring 3 statute miles of visibility.
Right. You have to be able to see 3 miles away to fly legally.
A lot of new pilots think, well, as long as I can see my drone, I'm fine. So they go fly on a foggy morning. They can see the drone 50 feet away in the mist, so they think it's perfectly safe.
I mean, logically, if you could see it, why isn't it safe?
Because the visibility rule isn't for you, it's for the other guy.
The other guy.
Imagine a medical helicopter, a medevac. They are flying low to stay under the fog or the clouds to get to a hospital quickly. They are moving at 120 miles per hour. If visibility is low, they need time to spot obstacles and dodge them. If you are flying in the fog, you have entirely removed their reaction time. They will not see your drone until it smashes through their windshield.
That is a chilling image, but it really drives the point home. These rules aren't there to just stop you from having fun or making money. They are there to keep people alive.
Exactly. It shifts the mindset from compliance to survival. That is exactly why the FAA tests this so heavily. They want to know that you respect the environment you are operating in.
So we've covered the invisible 3D map, the definitions of controlled versus uncontrolled, the blue versus magenta lines, and the very scary reality of why this matters. For the listener who is sitting here thinking, okay, I get it, but I am still terrified of taking this test, what is the core takeaway?
The core takeaway is pattern recognition. Don't try to memorize every square inch of the map. It's not about rote memorization. It's about logic.
It's a system.
It is. Blue means tower. Magenta means transition. Controlled means ask. Uncontrolled means you're the decision maker. Once you stop looking at the chart as a chaotic, stressful picture and start reading it as a set of instructions, the fear just goes away. It becomes entirely passable.
And you definitely don't need an aeronautical engineering degree to pass it.
Not at all. You just need to be able to translate FAA speak into plain English. If you can read a roadmap, you can learn to read a sectional chart.
Now, speaking of translation, I have to mention this because I see it all the time. People trying to learn this by watching random YouTube videos from 5 years ago.
That is incredibly risky.
It seems dangerous because the rules change, right?
They do. So if someone wants the structured path, how does Red Raven help?
Well, this is exactly why we built our Part 107 online course. It's designed to be that clear roadmap.
And it's updated for 2026.
Completely. It covers everything we've talked about. Remote ID, the new night rules, all of it. We have a structured study path, an AI tutor. They can answer your questions, and even audio learning options so you can study on your commute.
And there's a guarantee.
We do have a pass guarantee. If you go through our course and for some reason don't pass the exam, we refund the course fee. We're that confident in the structure, it just removes the guesswork.
It's an investment in your career.
That's what it is. It saves you time, frustration, and it gets you in the air earning money legally and safely.
For everyone listening, don't let this be the thing that holds you back.
That's right. Take it one piece at a time, and you will be fine.
Thanks for listening to the Red Raven UAS podcast. Visit redravenuas.com for consulting, training, and FAA Part 107 certification, and check out the current special pricing on our Part 107 course.